I feel like we've done this before. I feel like we've done this before. Reboot from Asteroid G. You're listening to Not So Live from Asteroid G. I'm Mike Finkelstein. With me, as always, is
Queen Bee
and Bex.
It's weird when we try and do that without Josh around.
It is.
Everyone's waiting for Josh to say something.
There's a missing hole in our hearts.
But there's a reason, because he has no interest in the one we're about to do.
Josh has no interest in discussing what we're about to discuss, which is Doctor Who. We said we were going to discuss this, and he immediately logged off. So, we are going to be doing a reboot of Doctor Who, and let's lay some ground rules here out right now, because Doctor Who is a show that essentially perpetually reboots itself. Like, it's a time travel show, and it's also about a character that can regenerate when they die and become a completely different character. Like, two doctors back to back don't even have to have the same personality. They are allowed to be more morphed and formed by the actor playing them as much as the showrunner writing for them. So a season-to-season overview of Doctor Who basically has to indicate that, and this is when the show kind of soft rebooted itself and acknowledged certain things, but changed all these other things and became a different show completely. So when we say rebooting Doctor Who, we can reboot and still maintain all the continuity, or we could throw everything away and do something else completely different. So it's like Community had the perfect send-up of it with Inspector Spacetime. And their version of Doctor Who, the show within the show, and like they did a reboot, quote unquote, where the Americans decided to do their own version, and it was completely different. But I could see America trying to do that with Doctor Who, and we almost had that with the Eighth Doctor in his one movie. But do we do that? How far do you reboot Doctor Who? And if we reboot it, what would you keep and what would you get rid of? I'm curious among our fans here in the booth with me.
The two fans here.
Yes. So Bex, you said you had an idea that you didn't think would work, but maybe. So what did you have?
Well. Plus, I have the slight argument of rebooting Doctor Who, which is such kind of like a crazy mishmash of creativity. Anyway,
yeah,
it doesn't feel as much like a reboot so much as, I don't know, possibilities, but I guess that is a reboot, but I don't know. There's something in my brain that doesn't feel like it's possible to actually reboot Doctor Who just because everything is so out there. But The little idea in my head was okay, what of the companions that I like? What if they somehow became a doctor? Or the Doctor took on one of their forms?
I mean, if we're doing that, I'm obviously going to lean towards Amy Pond. So
yeah. I mean, that was the one who came into my head.
Hell yeah. She's great. She's my favorite companion of the whole run of the new show since Chris Eccleston took over the role as the Ninth Doctor.
Oh yeah, hands down.
So good.
She's the best.
So much better than Rose.
Yes, God, yes. Plus, she's a redhead, so she's cool.
So have what's her face, whose name I can't remember right now, even though I really like her as an actress. Have her come back and take over as the Doctor and either gain his regeneration energy or something and go off and do her own thing as a Time Lord.
Yeah.
Wait, which one are we talking about? Being a redhead? Are we talking Catherine Haight or Karen Gilliam?
Karen Gilliam.
Karen Gilliam, yeah.
Okay.
I'd be on board with that. She's very nice too. We met her at a convention once.
I'm sure she's very pleasant.
She was very sweet. And I felt bad for her because, of course, it was a Wizard World convention, so they were just processing money and all right, you get 2 seconds out. And she, you could tell she kind of wanted to, do a bit more, but it's sorry, I gotta sign and then go.
Yeah.
But the other thought I had was, Master can control their looks as well, so to have a little knife twist into the Doctor's hearts, take on one of the former companions' forms just as a emotional whatever.
That's brilliantly evil. I love it.
I do like that too. See, that's how you bring Rose back. Make her the master, and then we can just hate her
Yeah.
properly. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah. That'd be good. I like that.
Well, we just recently did a reboot or a celebrity profile of Peter Dinklage. I think Peter Dinklage would be a great doctor.
Yes. If they want to start casting Americans in there, I would be on board with him in the role.
Yeah, I dig that.
Well, wasn't he the only American in Game of Thrones?
I don't know. I didn't pay that much attention to the casting of Game of Thrones to know. You are right. All the actors I can think of are British or whatever, but... And yeah, it's not like they even forced him to put on an American accent. He just did what he wanted.
Right.
Yeah.
He did an accent that he thought would be royal.
Yeah, which is just Peter Dinklage.
Right.
Yeah. Peter Dinklage is American royalty, okay?
Right? Anyway, so I would love to see him as a doctor. I would love to see let's see if we could choose somebody that's like somebody that wouldn't completely be somebody that we'd think of. Bo Burnham would be a great doctor. He's a comedian.
Sure.
Who does comedy music. I think he would be a good person to do a doctor impersonation, I guess. I don't know. Embodiment of. Who else would be a good doctor if we were going to reboot for America? That's what I'm thinking.
Oh,
if we were doing
for America. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Rebooting for America.
For America, does that mean it has to be...
Awkwafina as a doctor would be hilarious.
Awkwafina.
You were...
Yeah. You don't know Awkwafina is also a comedian, but she was in she's an Asian comedian who was in the reboot of Ocean's 8 when Sandra Bullock did it. Okay. She was the Asian in that.
Nice.
She's also a comedian.
Now, when you're saying this is for America, does that mean you're specifically taking American actors?
No,
just actors that appeal.
Actors that appeal to America currently. I mean, Awkwafina's in pretty much every movie now. Another actress who's in a lot of movies and would probably make a really good doctor would be Melissa McCarthy.
Ooh.
I gotta say, looking at it, thinking about like actors that I would cast in the role who can do serious but would have like that manic, like fun energy and would lean more towards like the Matt Smith, who's my favorite doctor of the current run. Like I like Paul McGann better, but in general, but I like of the current run from Chris Eccleston on, Matt Smith gets my vote. The guy who played John Ralphio on Parks and Rec, Ben Schwartz, I would absolutely cast him as the doctor.
Yes. Yeah, I was thinking Tom Hiddleston or the ladies.
Good, yeah.
Oh yeah, he would be a good consideration.
Do Hiddleston as the master though. I think he'd be much better in that role.
Oh yeah. I agree. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of too, but he's we know him as Loki. I'm like, oh well, let's put him as the doctor, but a little edgy. Like doctor but mischievous.
No, I think what you do, and this is building off of your idea from before, Bex, and using the casting idea you have. You make Tom Hiddleston the master, but you do it in like a Missy style role where they're not really so bad, and whatever revenge plot they had against the Doctor isn't like so necessary anymore. They're kind of like anti-hero and not straight villain. And then for whatever reason, like they get sucked into like an episode early in the run on a season of Doctor Who, and somehow the Doctor gets sucked away, and then it's just the Master and the Companion that are stuck on the TARDIS together, and they have to go on like a 2 or 3 season thing to try and figure out what happened to the Doctor and deal with all the big bads, and Doctor Who is basically the Master, like, playing the Doctor for 3 seasons.
Oh, man.
Wow,
I like that.
That's like Inception of Doctor Who right there.
But it totally wouldn't be a storyline anyone would expect, but it also would stay true to the concept of the show while presenting a completely different lead character doing the same kinds of adventures.
Hey, I'm all for it. I think, I've been watching a lot of Key and Peele recently. I think either one of them would be a great Doctor too.
Sure.
Because they have such a huge range
Yeah.
of being able to do characters that I think that would be really,
You
really
cast one
fun.
as the Doctor, you cast the other as the companion.
The other as the Master.
Yeah. Or as the Master, yeah, that too. Or as a companion, or both. Yeah, just have them switch roles, like partway in all the time. Improvise around each other. Yeah.
So,
and then you have someone else come in as the Doctor, and they both play companions one episode. Like
that would be great. That would be great.
Really fun. I'd watch that too. But no, with the idea of making the Master the lead, then you can have Tom Hiddleston play the Doctor, but he can also then be like a good character as opposed to the evil one, because he's forced to take on the role and continue like supporting that balance that the Doctor adds to the universe,
Well, it's kind of like in society that we live in, everybody's the hero of their own story. And so there are people who have to take on a villain role, even though they don't see themselves as a villain. Humans tend to choose somebody as their villain, as their nemesis, even if they're not really their villain or their nemesis. Sometimes they're their best friend, and they still end up being a villain in the story because there is nobody else to take that place. So you're absolutely right. Seeing that shadow of, good and evil, and having the actual Doctor be sucked away, and then having the Master have to come in and take that role would be, really an interesting kind of concept that I don't think they've actually done yet in the show. I mean, they've had old Doctors, they've had the War Doctor, they've had the Grumpy Doctor. It sounds more like they're doing the 7 dwarves of doctordom. You have the Sleepy Doctor, the Sneezy Doctor, that kind of thing. But I don't think they've actually had the Master be. I mean, the closest they got was Missy, who had basically said in one of her last episodes that she was tired of constantly fighting. She wanted to turn over a new leaf.
And then that was thrown away in the Chris Chinball run. And
right.
Yeah.
Right.
That annoys me. But it raises an interesting thought. And this is, I was watching a YouTube series, Just Right, about writing, obviously. And that was, they raised the point about the villain problem that the MCU has, which there's 2 different eras of the MCU with a different villain problem. And the originally, the villains of the MCU were just not interesting, very bland. But more recently, they've given the villains some depth, but they've given the villains depth via giving them a worldview that you can agree with, but also casting it villainously. So you had Michael Keaton playing the down on his luck worker who then decides to go around the system when the city of New York screws him over and starts stealing tech and selling it on the black market. His point that the system screwed him over and stole a job that should have been his and his guys was right, but then they give him motivation to be a villain. There was Killmonger, who, if in any other version of that story, would be the hero of Black Panther, but because we already had a Black Panther, Killmonger, despite all of his right ideas about American imperialism and how bad it is, still gets cast as the villain. And then there was Falcon and Winter Soldier with Carly Morgenstein, or whatever her name was, Carly, who would be the hero in any other story, but because we had a Captain America type in the movie, she has to play the villain even though her ideas were things that Sam Wilson agreed with. That's a problem, but it's a problem you can solve just by taking the person you want to cast as the villain and making them the hero because their ideas are right. We want a villain, but we don't need to take the person with the heroic ideas and make them the villain.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So, you give the Master something to argue about. You cast him in the role of the quote-unquote villain because he's the Master and he battles with Doctor for 3 episodes, and then something happens and his actions accidentally send the Doctor away, and suddenly he's free to actually be the hero he imagined himself to be.
Right.
So.
Well, isn't that how most villains become villains? Is that they're not getting the respect that they believe that they deserve
Sometimes.
in any given situation? Is that they turn evil because they weren't hugged enough as a child? So, you as I said, everybody wants to be a hero in their own story, and I don't think that that's really shown in various movies and or TV shows that good people, like I guess they kind of did it in WandaVision, is that Wanda's she's acting selfishly, but she's doing it in the benefit of what she believes wronged her.
Her family,
so,
helping her family, yeah.
Right, she's helping her family. And because nobody else was helping her family, because helping her family would be against, actions of the natural order or whatever. Like, it just so much ire with trying to do the right thing for the wrong reason or doing the right thing for the right reason. It depends on who you are as to what that reason is.
Yeah. Thanks.
So,
any other thoughts?
No.
So I think we've settled on this idea. I think the three of us have kind of fleshed it out enough. So the Doctor shows up. A Doctor has a companion. Doesn't have to be current Doctor. Doesn't have to be current companion because we can reboot it. Master shows up. Master gets explanation. Master Doctor fight for 3 episodes. Doctor gets sucked away potentially due to something that the Master did, even though it wasn't what the Master meant to do. Like it's like with the Joker and Batman. Despite all the times the Joker has tried to quote-unquote kill the Batman, he doesn't want Batman to actually die. Because without Batman, what would the Joker do? So
exactly.
For all the times the Master has tried to kill the Doctor, I don't think they actually want the Doctor to die, not deep down. Because without the Doctor to balance them, what are they going to do? So the Doctor goes away, there suddenly isn't that balance in the world, and the Master is looking at the companion going, shit. So, what were we doing?
Right, exactly.
Where were you guys headed? You got some signal from somewhere, right? Let's let the TARDIS take us there. Sure.
Exactly.
And then you unravel the story, and it's not that you could even have the Doctor deep down become the quote unquote villain of the show, not because they meant to. The same sort of thing with the Master in that regard. There's some big bad that starts using them after they capture them, and for 3 seasons, whatever storyline is playing out from this big bad is actually made to happen because the Doctor is involved, and it takes the actions of the Master to free the Doctor, and then they both have a better perspective on each other before the Master goes away to do whatever Master thinks the Master decides to do.
Yeah.
Yes?
I like it.
There we go. There's your reboot, the BBC. Feel free to pay us to use that episode idea.
That's a cut.
There we go. We're good. Yeah, we don't want a lot. We just want a percentage of this fantastic idea that we think you should use. Or just hire us on to do the show for you. I think we have a great idea here. Without further ideas then, this has been Not So Life from Asteroid G, coming to you from the farthest reaches of the known universe. I'm Mike Finkelstein.
I'm Queen Bee.
And I'm Bex.
And only one of us is the villain of this story, and we will see you next time.
Whee!